policy going forward as we look to the entirety of 2021, for instance, not knowing when a vaccine turns up. That would then mean that you've got options, and one of those options might be to say to people, and other countries in the world are doing this, here is an electronic device that means we can be certain about where you are, but there is some technology that can actually monitor your vital signs as well, so it becomes something that's not just to ensure you stay where you're supposed to stay, it's also a way in which we can monitor whether you're healthy or otherwise. That's a piece of work that's being done.
Why am I not free to go? I want to go.
Back off, mate.
I saw a young woman have a panic attack because she was feeling claustrophobic, being squished together with so many people. I saw an old man, he was getting upset because he couldn't go to the toilet and was dragged away by police.
Victoria Police says it's unaware of any incident involving an elderly man and that protesters were provided with drinking water.
For some of these people, there are no standards at all. This is shameful behaviour.
It's not shameful for someone to stand up for human rights, but what is shameful is forcing hundreds of people together in a confined space in the middle of a pandemic.
The police are not in the full knowledge of what is going on, and I know it is no excuse that they are following orders. But I want everyone, please, to direct your energies towards the government and the one at the top. So the police are just following orders, and as I always say, we are here in peace, we are here in love and light and lawfully.
What have we done wrong? Like, what on earth are you guys doing to us? What are you doing to us?
Protesting is not unlawful. It's a human right.
Any attack against freedom of speech, freedom of worship, freedom of political thought is an attack on all of us, no matter what country that attack happens in.
You've given me directions to move on based on the fact that I don't have a work permit. I have a work permit. You're not following the rules. You're not following the rules. What am I doing? I'm a journalist.
Streaming now, everyone. Facebook, this is Victoria. We want to go home.
Every single cop.
Okay, I just need nearly got knocked ass over tit. We can't leave here. We're at peaceful protest, everybody. So this is going out across Australia. But the police won't let us go home. We finished with our peaceful protest, and there is a lot of intimidation tactics being used here. We just want to go home. Who is the senior constable? Can we please go home? Oh, can we go home?
Can't you just give us an idea of where we can go?
Okay, I've got senior
They're grabbing
constable
people. Where are we
Jay
supposed to
Gibson
go
here.
home? Stay where you are.
Acting Sergeant Todd Little. Natasha Wirtz is a constable.
Can the public order response team please stop breaking the police circle just so they can grab people through a headlock? That is not reasonable for people who are meant to be here trying to voice their opinions on the actions of a government that
It
have
looks
gone
like
against
they're
them.
going to try and arrest
We
all
are
of
just
us
trying to
today.
voice our opinions peacefully.
They blocked
You are walking in a triangle, breaking the police circle, who are trying to tell us, they're telling us just to stand here. Why are you arresting people if they're being told to stand here? We are not doing anything.
We've done
We are
exactly what
standing
the
here.
police asked us to do today. We did a peaceful
Public order
protest. We
response
went
team,
where
you are
they
not
asked us
maintaining the
to.
public order.
And now they've just surrounded
We
us
ask you to
and they're not letting
uphold
us
the
go.
right.
So this will
Everyone
be
say it
used.
with me. Uphold the right.
This will be used in court against every
Uphold the
single
right.
one of them.
Uphold the right.
Uphold the right.
Uphold the right.
Packing up, guys? Yeah. I'm just going live reporting some crimes to the police. Peter Little on Facebook. One of the things also, we're doing two things. We're reporting crimes about the flu being covered up this year. The government's admitted they're not doing the flu stats, okay? And secondly, I'm reporting the Rainmaking Control Act, which I've got in here, where since 1967, we've had an Act of Parliament allowing the Victorian government to change the weather by cloud seeding. And I've done an FOI and they said they've got no archives since 1967. Someone's stolen all the documents, but we've been highlighting that climate change is not only happening naturally, it's been happening by government alone, okay? Now the third thing is we're recruiting. This has just come out. This is cops.
Sorry, I need to go. So what do you want
Well,
to give me something and I can read it?
yeah.
What's going on?
Okay, this is the whistleblowers from New South Wales Cops called Cops for COVID Truth.
Yep.
70 whistleblowers have had enough about the lies with COVID.
Yep.
They don't want to do the oppressive stuff that you guys cover when people go out and protest and these cops are forced to do the orders.
Yep.
70 have come out. I'm going to try and recruit Victorian police as well to be whistleblowers and stand up for the lies that have been identified by the police. So this is a 6-page document. This is the police. This isn't conspiracy theories. This is orchestrated by Alexander Cooney, Senior Constable from the Coffs Clarence Highway Patrol, New South Wales Police Force, Grafton Police Station. Okay, he's got 70 other signatories, we believe, and he's gone into all the science and he's given this to the New South Wales Police Commissioner of New South Wales. This is a bombshell, okay? This is a bombshell when everyone in Victoria has been absolutely massacred in the longest lockdown ever in world history. So I'll leave this one with you.
Okay.
I'll make sure, have you got a card I can give you?
Not on me at the car. I do.
Okay, well I'll come over.
So we got to go.
Yeah, I'll come over and get it from the card and then you guys really need to be on this because...
Find me on Twitter, sir.
Yeah?
Mark Sanamatino. Find me on Twitter.
Mark? Yeah, okay. Okay. I'll give you a couple of the other documents too. Thanks, buddy. I'll take that one. I'll take all this, it's all right. We got the Tigers here. And we got the Shane Tuck signed ball, which Trent Cotchin also signed. And Dusty Martin used to go to the same massage man. That's how I met Shane Tuck back in the early 2000s. Shane Tuck, the Richmond footballer, suicided on 20th of July 2020. Couldn't handle the COVID lockdowns. We've now got police saying it's a big con. Shane had his wedding at my joint back in 2007 when I had a nice property down the peninsula. And now Dusty's been massaged by Gary McDonnell on the peninsula there since the age of 16. So was Shane Tuck. And I was going there for a medial massage when I was down at Shoreham for about 10 years, okay? So I'm just carrying that with me. We've got the Rainmaking Control Act here, which I've done a FOI, and
Tell them where we are.
we're outside the main headquarters of Victorian Police, okay? This is the corner of, Swanson and...
Spencer and Latrobe.
Swanson and Latrobe, okay?
Spencer and Latrobe.
We know we can't be interfered with. Interference in political rights and duties, Section 83(4, Criminal Code Act 1995, the Commonwealth, overrides Victoria anyway. But we can't be intimidated, use of force, violence or intimidation or making of any threats where we're exercising Australian democratic or political rights or duties arising under the Constitution or law of the Commonwealth. Okay? So we've got this letter, this whistleblower letter that I put on my earlier lives, addressed to, this is October 26, it's very recent. Michael Fuller, Police Commissioner of New South Wales, open letter concerning the police enforcement of ongoing COVID-19 restrictions. Down here he bags the PCR test, and over here at the back, this is the key point. Many members of the force are fed up with the approach to enforce oppressive rules placed upon the population in the name of COVID-19 and the looming mandatory vaccinations. We feel a real calling to do our part to stop this oppression, so we are writing to you to raise the following issues. Police force employees have choice as to whether or not to receive vaccines. The police believe that all members of the community also have choice around receiving vaccines. Police do not participate in any way in the forcing of vaccines upon the population, and that the Police Association start preparing to defend police employees who choose to not be vaccinated. Raise the alarm, noisy tram. Raise the alarm that there's a global dictatorship. This is from the police guys. This is not fake news, this is not conspiracy theories. 70 coppers in New South Wales, a global dictatorship occurring, and the police force being used and abused as a tool to push these global and corporate agendas upon the population, and to warn the police force not to simply acquiesce to these requests, rules and laws, and to act in the best interest of its population, not tyranny of government. Okay, so that's just a snapshot. So, we're recruiting whistleblowers from the police force. We want them to be aware. We're reporting the crimes of the Rainmaking Control Act. The archives have been stolen. Every document's been removed. According to FOI, they've got nothing. And the third crime was the cover-up of the flu stats that I've been on about for 4 or 5 months. And I've got the document here, which has come from the Australian government. Hang on. This is the Australian government's direct quote. Every fortnight they have the Australian Influenza Surveillance Report. This was number 8. They're probably up to, back in July, every fortnight. They're probably up to number 13. And this is Greg Hunt's mob. Federal Health Minister, Department of Health acknowledges all the providers. But he says, key message, important to note, this is a direct quote, due to COVID, data reported from the various influenza surveillance systems may not represent an accurate reflection of influenza activity, which I might tell you has the same symptoms as COVID. So they've agreed that they've got no surveillance going, and you have a look at the flu cases testing positive. Have a look at this graph. Percentage tests for influenza plunged to near zero in March. Zero. Hospitalisation, I can show you the same, okay? So we've done all this before. Some of you are going to be new to this. I'm going to go in here and we'll see how we go. I hope they take this seriously, because we've now got 70 whistleblowers allegedly from New South Wales that have pulled, have blown the COVID pandemic out of the water, okay? The police. Could you imagine we get whistleblowers that are the police? Let's see what happens, okay? Do you want me to have this in here?
Yeah. I think you better if you have the...
Yeah, okay.
I need to get it.
Yes, sir. How are you, sir? Yeah, I've got 3 matters here. There's my ID. I'm an Australian lawyer, and I've got 2 crimes to report, and also a very important 6-page letter, which is 70 whistleblowers from the New South Wales Police are blowing the whistle on the fraud behind the COVID pandemic, and in particular trying to seek other police to join their whistleblower group. They're saying here that many members of the force are fed up with the approach to enforce oppressive rules placed upon the population in the name of COVID. And this is coming from Senior Constable at Senior Constable, I'll give you the name. Senior Constable Alexander Cooney, Coffs Clarence Highway Patrol. This is very, very serious. It's just come out. New South Wales Police Force. So he's written this letter, whistleblower, to Michael Fuller, Police Commissioner of New South Wales. I'm just cutting to the punchline because I know you're busy. Police force employees should have a choice as to whether or not to receive vaccines. The police believe that all members of the community also have choice around receiving vaccines. Police do not participate in any way in the forcing of vaccines upon the population, which we all know the Prime Minister has said is going to make it as mandatory as possible. Police associations start preparing to defend police employees who choose not to be vaccinated and to raise the alarm. Now, this is from the police. This is 70 police have apparently signed this. To raise the alarm, there's a global dictatorship occurring. This isn't me as a conspiracy theorist, because I know it's fact, but they're saying a global dictatorship occurring, and the police force is being used as a tool to push these global and corporate agendas upon the population. And finally, to warn the police force not to simply acquiesce to these requests, rules and laws, and to act in the best interests of its population, not tyranny of government. So that's the guts of it. But I'd like you to actually take a copy of that, and there's a reference to where you can find it on a website.
Do you want me to make a copy?
No, you can have that one. And then, I mean, at some point I will write to the Commission, and other people will, to see if they'd circulate it to all of you. Now, the crimes I'd like to report, and I don't know whether you've got a written form I could sign here. The main crime, well, actually two main crimes. One is so just on that document there, I'm hoping there'd be Victorian police that read that, get in touch with the constable, get access to all the material, and it may be that some members of the Victorian police would want to go whistleblower. And I can tell you that there is protection from whistleblowers under the Public Interest Disclosure Act in Victoria. So your legal team will talk to you about that. But there is protection for anyone in Victoria that also wants to whistleblow if they think this is getting out of hand. Because what happened on the weekend was not good. The public didn't like what happened. And we're trying to work with the police. I've been trying to work with the police. We want you to be working with us, not for a global dictatorship. So I'm doing this seriously. I'm telling you, mate, from my heart, that we want you guys to understand what's going on behind the scenes, because we've done all the homework and we're alarmed with what's about to happen with this new transhuman vaccine. Now, the second crime, there's a crime, well, that's a crime in there. He's saying there's a global dictatorship conspiracy, so that's the biggest conspiracy in history. This is the Rainmaking Control Act 1967. Not a lot of people realise this is still on the books of Parliament House. I got alerted to it because farmers in the Wimmera were actually paying someone to actually change the weather. And I thought, that can't be right, there must be some legislation. And I found this act, and it's been in force since 1967. And I've done an FOI, I got the answer last week, and they've got no documents. They've wiped the entire archives of this act. So somebody's nervous that the climate change that the government's been doing, they don't want the public to get the record. So this is one of the biggest thefts ever in a public service, okay? And I will go to the Auditor General, but I want to report it as a crime because I've just got the FOI back. And I mean, it's hard to believe. Most people don't believe this is a law, and most people don't believe that you can change the clouds. But I'm telling you, 1967, you can imagine how much has changed in technology. There's Section 8, which is cloud seeding in Victoria to induce rainfall in another state. At the request of the Minister of, say, New South Wales or South Australia, the Victorian Minister may authorise rain-making operations to be carried out in Victoria to promote rainfall in an adjoining state. I mean, why aren't we doing that in droughts? And then Section 12 says no liability in respect of authorised operations, right? And you can get off if the Minister gives you a certificate in relation to doctoring the weather and any loss or damage caused by or arising out of the precipitation of rain, hail, sleet, snow, ice, fog or mist in consequence of the rain-making operations. So why did they wipe the entire public service records when I started putting this around when I found it a year ago? So you can hang on to that copy, and I want to report the theft of all the archives of the Victorian Department of Ministers, Department of Agriculture, okay? So if you can give me some advice at the end about how I do that one. The final one, and I know you're busy, this one is probably the underlying reason they're able to do the condemic. The reason that it's a con is because they've used the flu stats to doctor the COVID. That's what I suspected all along. Luckily for us, like we the people, This is a government document. I've taken this directly from the Department of Health, Australian Government, Greg Hunt, the responsible minister. I know Greg very well. Ring Greg and he'll tell you, oh, bloody hell, what he's doing now. Australian Influenza Surveillance Report comes out every fortnight since April. This was the number 8 one in July. They're up to number 13. This is in every single one of them, right? It's important to note that due to COVID epidemic, data reported from the various influenza surveillance systems may not represent an accurate reflection of influenza activity. Results should be treated with caution, especially when trying to compare to other seasons. But mate, they've absolutely just destroyed the flu stats completely. There's 5 charts out of the 13 I've highlighted, which show this one's on, this is figure 5, the test that positive for influenza plunged to 0 once the COVID thing happened. The hospitalisations are the same. This one's the influenza test numbers rise, but the positives plunged to 0, so all the testing went up, but it just disappeared like nothing. Like none testing positive for flu? How can it be when they've got exactly the same symptoms? The third one is figure 7. Why have influenza hospitalisations, flatlined since COVID, right? Look at the flat line there, like that's a joke. That's hospitalisations. And I can tell you there's only been 3 over 65 admitted to hospital with the flu this year, which is just a joke, and none of them in CPU. And this final one, why influenza hospitalisations plunge in winter, that's just the step-by-step one. So there's nothing in June, July, August, you know. So
this winter.
This is all, you can have that one. So this is, I want to report the fact they've admitted it. I mean, they have admitted they're not surveilling the flu, and I say they've covered this up. This is a massive conspiracy. There's 19 hospitals involved. This is all in this document here, right, the bigger one. 19 hospitals called Sentinel hospitals. We've got 3 in Victoria. I've walked into all 3. We've got Royal Melbourne, we've got Alfred, and we've got the Monash. Now, I walked into the Monash. The other 2 just ignored my questions, wouldn't talk. I spoke to the doctor at Monash. She admitted, very nice doctor, you take the swab for COVID. Like if you've got influenza-like symptoms, exactly the same as COVID, they've got the same 9 symptoms. If you do the swab for COVID, they only do 1 swab at Monash. This is what she told me. And you can test in the laboratory for flu and COVID from the 1 swab. So why aren't they testing this year for the influenza? Because 70 policemen have outed them, same as we've been outing them. They're just using the flu and getting away with it, okay? And that's what's happening in this second wave overseas as well, you'll find. But so I want to report to the Department of Health for failing to survey the flu, which is a very important problem because they told you, did you get a flu vaccine?
Did I get one?
Did you get one this year?
Like we have private.
Yeah, did you get one? I didn't get one, I've never had one, but a lot of police, I've been asking police and not everyone's been getting them, but that law, they're supposed to survey what's happening to the population after people get the flu shot. I mean, they're saying flu's a deadly disease and then they want everyone to have it. They made all the health workers have it on the front line and then they're not surveilling the side effects from flu. That's against the law. I mean, there's a whole lot of Acts Act breaches, including the TGA Act. I could go through Act after Act. And all the doctors should be reported to AHPRA and lose their licence to practice. I mean, this is bigger than Ben Hur. And this is why I'm here, desperate after, I've been trying to wake people up for 4 or 5 years. I knew the pandemic was coming in 2016. People were waking me up. I've been predicting it on Facebook. I'm Peter Little on Facebook since 2016. I knew there'd be a pandemic. I knew they're trying for global population control with the vaccine. I didn't know about the lockdown. But that's all talked about in 2010. You can look at a Rockefeller document and they talk about the mind, the way they're going to do the lockdown, which is mental health like crazy. And I lost Shane Tuck, a friend of mine who had his wedding at my place. I met him with Dustin Martin being massaged down at Rye back in early 2000 when I was living down that way, and he had his whole wedding at the Richmond Football Club. And I was live on Facebook at the Towers, and a lady said to me, live on Facebook, I nearly suicided 2 days ago, and I said, we'll get someone down. I'd just been talking to one of the footballers I played footy with. I said, who's your favourite footballer? He said, Michael Tuck. And I said, Michael Tuck, I'll give Shane a call. Mate, I didn't call him. 4 days later, he suicided.
That's right. What was your name?
It's none of your concern.
Well, it is.
Are you trying to facilitate an unlawful arrest here today?
Not at all. We're just trying to ask what your name is.
Are you attempting to enter into commerce today?
Mate, do you want to come over in the shade so we're out of the sun?
Not particularly.
Gavin's my name. I'm one of the sergeants here today. What was your name, mate?
There's no requirement under the common law to identify oneself.
All right. So at the moment we're just trying to
more to identify oneself.
All right, so at the moment we're just trying to make sure you're not breaching the Chief Officer's directions.
Okay, so can you provide me with that evidence that I've been provided with a expressed document that I've had the opportunity to rebut or to refuse?
I don't have a document in front of me, but
You're
it's been
familiar with
used for a while.
You're familiar with the doctrine of estoppel?
So do you have any idea, have you, sir?
Are you familiar with the doctrine of consent? Is policing not based on consent? So you do not have consent from me today.
Do you have any idea, mate? Do you, mate? If you don't have any ID, all I'm trying to do is make sure you're within the 25 Ks. You're not breaching the Chief Health Officer's direction.
I've got no requirement.
Once we've done that,
I've got no requirement to the Chief Health Officer. Because there's been no instrument that I've had cited. There's been no instrument that I've...
It's been 6 months since it's all started.
There's been no instrument. There's been no instrument. Yes, I've sent the State of Victoria cease and desist notice, and I've sent this. I sent the Chief Health Officer.
Sir, you're right to go.
I don't carry ID.
All right. What's your name?
It's none of your concern.
It is my concern. We just need to make sure.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Just say
Okay.
Don't touch me. Don't touch.